Hey everybody, welcome to Riffin with Griffin. No woo-woos today. Today's a special intro today, and I thought just because of everything that's going on in the world right now, with the coronavirus, with the racial upheaval, the injustice that's being brought to light, I thought I would just do my own intro, give you my own thoughts about this on my platform. Before I play this episode, I have the great Aisha Alpha on the show. She came out with her own comedy album and a special that's coming out on all things comedy. And we actually have a very interesting discussion before all of this stuff happened with the protests over George Floyd. And we have a great discussion about me being mixed in America, mixed race and light skin, and just we have our own discussion. And I thought it's interesting even before all this happened that people of color have been talking about certain things for a long time, and now these things are being brought to light. So, yes, I thought woo-woos weren't appropriate for right now with the Black Lives Matter movement and what it really stands for, and we should be, conscious of that. I mean, for me, like I say, I'm a mixed race person, and I deal with things in my own way from my own experience. And it's hard right now being someone that's like sort of in the public eye. I mean, I'm not saying I'm famous or anything, but, just first of all, the pushback you get right now on the internet, like you can't even post anything without somebody trying to tell you how you should feel. This is like grieving. It's like when someone dies and we all grieve in our own way. And sometimes people get on you like, well, you don't care because you're not grieving the way they grieve. It's the same thing with protesting. My anger level and what I'm angry about, how I want to put my energy forward in this may not be the same as you. So don't assume that you think you care more than me or that I don't care at all. You don't know me like that. And that's all that's happening on the internet right now. It's like sometimes the message is getting lost with people's charged feelings. So we have to have some empathy for everyone's sensitivity. So it's crazy that we got to be sensitive to people's sensitivity. We have to know how sensitive people are. And we have to be sensitive to that. I mean, that's what's happening right now. Like I went on a walk the other day, and then I took a picture of like these trees. And I was like, oh, this is a beautiful picture. Then some idiot sends me a message. Nice protesting with the middle finger and emoji. And I'm like, what? It's craziness. Another idiot sends me a message. Why are you silent on? I forgot the guy's name. That's ironic. Maybe that's the reason why he was upset at me. But he was saying like, what? Let me look at it. Why are you silent on David Dorn? I want to get the guy's name. Like David Dorn. He was the retired black officer. I think he was in his 60s or 70s, and he was like killed by rioters. Why am I silent on it? Like it's not. I had to tell this guy it's not my place to openly discuss every single thing on your timeline. I don't have to talk about every single injustice that's going on in the world, and don't assume that I don't care about things because I'm not doing it the way you want. Who are you? Like you have to really ask yourselves that. This demand people have of people of even the smallest influence, you think that those people are responsible for the world's happiness. Hey, we have to do our part. Like first find out is really what I'm trying to say. Find out if I'm doing something or not before you just judge. So, because that's not helping the cause. I think people are channeling their negativity. They're channeling their aggression and their pent up feelings. And then they're putting it out in the wrong place to people that don't deserve that sort of attitude. My feeling is this is about the term no justice, no peace. What does that mean to you? Because it's important. Because that's what I think this is about. Like, I'm going to look past the racial part of it for a second. Because to me, another main part about what's happened with the George Floyd incident is the idea of the abuse of power. That old statement, power corrupts, is so true. That's why there needs to be oversight. The fact that cop and those other cops, with clearly watching people film, the guy's looking at people film him while he murders this guy, to me says he really thought he was going to get away with it. And we have to ask ourselves, without people filming, he probably would have gotten away with it. They could have said anything they wanted. They could have said, well, he was resisting arrest, and how would we know? So that abuse of power is the problem. It's one of the main problems. The fact that they thought that they could get away with this, and whatever they've done in the past, even if it was something not as egregious as murder, but any kind of abuse of power, once it happens 2, 3, 4, 5 times, look, you get to the point where you're like, well, I could kill this guy and I'll probably get off. Even going back to the terrible thing where the 2 white guys, shot the guy jogging in their neighborhood. I mean, there's a certain attitude that like this sort of thing can happen. And those guys weren't necessarily cops, but it turns out they had connections to I don't know if it was the police or some government office, like the district attorneys or whatever affiliation they had. It was close enough for them to think, I could get away with this. And that's where we have to stop. I mean, for me, a big problem in the United States right now is that the media is supposed to be the 4th branch of government. The news. The news is supposed to be where we get our information and it keeps the government in check. Something goes up, then the news goes, hey, this is what's happening. Here's an expose. Here's an interview with someone. But now we're in a situation where we can't trust the news at all. You have to take it all with a grain of salt. I just don't like that. So now we have a 5th branch of government. And you know who that is? It's you. Every individual that holds up their cell phone when there's an arrest going on. Thank God that happened. That's what we have to do. We have to keep recording, keep filming, keep putting that stuff out until there's a change. There needs to be some oversight. So we have to start the oversight with our devices. You just film, put it out, document that stuff to be like, hey, look, this is what happened. So then maybe there'll be some real change, because the change has to come in the chain of command. It has to come with, oversight. So once that gets into place, then maybe these kinds of things won't happen, because you can't legislate how people feel. I mean, if people have prejudice and people have preferences and that turns into racist behavior, how can you police that? Well, we have to at least make sure if you're a racist and you want to be a cop, okay, but you just can't be racist at work. You know what I mean? And that's a hard thing to try to legislate, is to look after, like to make sure that that's good. It's hard. So we have to do that with education. We have to do that with love. We have to spread love, and we have to, make sure that the good cops know, hey, thank you for what you do. It's a tough situation, but I need you to know I'm with you. This has been difficult times. I mean, the coronavirus is going on. I mean, I personally got some attacked another time on the internet because I was saying, like, I'm not for looting. I understand why looting happens. I understand with pent up energy and years of systematic racism and disenfranchised people feel like they have nothing. Then you add that to this coronavirus pandemic and the quarantine, that with 40 million people out of work and people at home pent up, and then this just an explosion. Okay, so I get it, but I don't agree with looting. And my thing was, why are you out looting during a pandemic? People got masks on. People don't even have masks on. I saw this white kid walking out of. He's on camera. Looks right at the camera. Whoever was filming looks right at him with a surfboard, his long white hair, and he's just walking out like, I got this. I'm like, they're gonna get you. People don't remember in '92 after the Rodney King riots. They got footage. There's surveillance footage, and whoever they can get, they got. So you're out there thinking you're going to get away with. You got your Louis Vuitton bag, or you got your whatever you stole. You're on camera. Some of you are going to get arrested. You're gonna go down. And hey, maybe you sacrifice yourself for the cause, because maybe all of this will lead towards some real change, and the looting and fires contributed to pushing forward the change, but there's consequences to your actions. But anyways, I'm just putting out there, like, why would you want to be out looting during a pandemic? Because if you get arrested, you have more chances to get sick. You think these cops care about people's safety at that point? You know, they're out there like, okay, arrest them all, put them all in a thing, take the masks off because we have to take pictures of them. You in a paddy wagon, you out at the thing. Even if they're letting you out in 3 hours, you're still in confined spaces with a bunch of people. You don't know who's sick or not. I'm 48 years old. I'm not trying to be out here getting sick. You know, I've known people that have gotten really sick from this. I want to see my mom again. I want to give my mom a hug. I don't want to be sick and then get my mom sick and she dies because of me. I mean, the coronavirus is something that, yes, because all these young people who are like, oh, it's not that serious. You get to be 85. Okay. Well, don't you want to hug your grandma? Don't you want to be near your parents? So that's where I was coming from. But of course, you get shit for that. It's like, you don't understand. You need to have this, unrest, because that's how change happens. It's like, people don't hear what you're saying. All I'm saying is be safe. If you're out there looting, put a mask on. You're going to get I don't agree with it. I don't condone it. I like the peaceful protest, but sometimes peaceful don't work. How can you be peaceful with no justice? Which takes it back to what I was saying. So if we don't feel that there's being justice done on one side, why should justice be done on the other side? Sometimes you got to fight for justice, and that's the unfortunate byproduct of that. But anyways, be safe out there. Try to get into a dialogue with people that are different than you. That's important, to talk. It's not to like even if you're out there, you're white, you're tired of hearing about Black Lives Matter. You're one of these people that's like, I'm not a racist. My father wasn't a racist. Yeah, okay. It hasn't touched you and affected you in a certain way. But that doesn't mean you have to take the opposite side. It doesn't mean you have to go at people like, well, why aren't you saying something about these looters and doing this? How about we talk about why these things are happening? Let's talk about why people are all bent up. Let's talk about why you feel the way you feel, that you feel wronged. You feel like you're being lumped in with people that have nothing to do with you. If we have a conversation and dialogue, or if we have an intelligent back and forth, let's talk about logic. Let's try to figure out why we're so emotional and sensitive and work together towards a common goal, then maybe we can actually solve this problem. But if you think you're helping by putting out your negativity, by putting out your narrow-minded view of the world and thinking everybody should think like you, hey, it's not helping. But on a more positive note, like I said, I have the very talented Miss Aisha Alpha on the show. She's got a great album out, and her special's coming out in July. And I recorded this episode with her before all this unrest, but as I looked back at the episode, we really had a very interesting discussion about race and how we both look and how it affected our upbringing. And I think this is the kind of conversations that are important. So I hope you enjoy the episode. Be safe out there. Wear your masks, keep your social distancing going. And if you're out there protesting with peaceful protests, keep doing your work, keep spreading the message. Let's change the system. Let's get some accountability. And remember, not all cops are bad too. They're not all bad. There's some bad apples, and the good ones, they need to be more vocal about the bad ones, because we can't have any bad ones in that position. So that's how we're going to work together to solve this problem. But for now, please enjoy this episode of Riffin with Griffin. And as always, thank you for watching. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program. We've never met, which is how we met. We haven't met. Huh? When did we? Did we meet?
This is the best. You came and did the set to get it started when I ran my hour at the
that's
store.
Okay, that's where, okay, right. But we didn't really
we've met a couple times.
Okay, but we didn't meet
This is a good start. This is a good start, though. This is a good re-meet.
I'm saying we didn't meet like we were sitting down for coffee or we were like,
we've never gone on a date. We've never.
Yes, right. That's what I'm saying. We've never hung
not
out.
Slept together.
Right.
Yes, we're good.
Like that. Yeah.
We're good.
Well, that would be even worse if I didn't remember. See how you got me all flustered? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program, Miss Aisha.
Thank you.
Alpha.
Yeah.
Get the name right. Aisha Alpha. Yes, that's right. You were running your, because you were going to do.
That was right before
Was it an album? Or was it for a.
Yeah, I did the album in November with ATC, and then we also videoed it. So the video is going to come out on their website.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, but the album just came out on Friday.
But you say it like a video, like it's not like necessarily a special.
Well, I mean, I guess they always laugh at me. They're like, "Why are you saying that? It's a special." And I was like, "I know, but I think it's because we originally." I know I'm like downplaying, but
yeah, so
I'm Canadian. What do you want? You know what I mean? Like whatever. But we originally were just doing the album, and I was like, I just want to get some video so we can get some clips, right? Like that was the whole thing for me. But then the video turned out really well. I think I come across better in video than any other medium. So I think they were like, oh snap, okay, we got to put this together. So now we have a proper actual, there's an intro. There's it's a full on.
So it went from a video to a full on production.
Yeah.
But it's weird because what is the difference these days, right? Because you got
sorry.
If somebody's doing it themselves as opposed to is it having somebody else write a check? That's what makes it official. What makes it official? I mean, I guess the humbleness of being a comic sometimes is you try to downplay it. Oh, I did a little video for a thing.
Right.
Then you look at it and you're like, this is a full on special, woman. What are you talking about?
It's it's not a video because it legit. It's got the marquee and the intro and the people and there's all the parts and then all produced by All Things Comedy and stuff. So
right.
It full on is. I think it's just in my mind because we did the album and I was like, great, this is a bonus. But then it ended up being so much better than we thought. They ended up bringing 4 cameras in. I think because the more they saw me perform, they're like, oh yeah, she's got a point. Getting a video would be great. Let's put this together. If it works out, great. And then it worked out. So they're like, cool. Yeah, let's do this,
a video is somebody was holding up a cell phone and was doing or you did a selfie for your story.
I didn't like any of the angles they had from the actual cameras. I used my selfie phone the whole time. That's what the whole video is, but whatever.
In this day and age you need a gimmick, so it's that would have been the thing. If you did a selfie special where the whole time you were holding it, that would be
it's all on GoPro. I remember
right. Is that even a GoPro's even a thing still?
It was such a thing. Everyone was like, I gotta get a GoPro and hang them from the ceiling. And you're like, it's bad video, it's bad sound. Why are we doing this?
Yeah, and it's that stupid fisheye thing. Or it's why is that a thing? I never understood fisheye.
Unless you were going on a motorcycle or you were going underwater or you were some sort of shark chaser. No one wants to see it on a GoPro. Just get a real camera.
Yeah, I don't want to see you in Whole Foods on your GoPro. In the produce aisle, I'm in Whole Foods, you know what I mean? It's
Can I say stupid. There's something this is going to sound way more kinky than I intend, but there was something about just watching people live their lives that is so fascinating to me, and I would just love if there was a world where you could just watch people live their lives without them knowing, and it wasn't a creepy thing, I'd be in it.
You're all about Truman Show then? Are you voyeuristic? Is that your thing?
Yeah, I think I'm weirdly voyeuristic. It's just fascinating. I think everybody's life is so interesting and the way people do things is interesting and you don't have to be doing something wrong or bad. I just I'd love to know, how do you spend a Sunday? Just the boring stuff is so interesting to me.
Now, do you think that it's that? Here's a question. Is it that people's lives are interesting, or is it interesting that you're watching people's lives and they don't know?
Now you're going to make me sound creepy.
No. I'm just curious. No, because let me explain why I ask. Okay, so you got Pornhub. You got so many internet pornography is this
what
huge
is it?
thing.
www. What?
You know what I mean? It's so easy to get whatever you want, whatever your fetish is, whatever it is, you could just click it in. But it seems that right now, something like OnlyFans, where it's basically just people going, hey, this is me, and you could, pay me directly to do what you could get for free. Is there's something about that?
I think there's something about the realness of stuff. You know what I mean? Movies are great. We know we go to movies. We know they're fake. We know, even if it's a true story, it's a fake version of that true story. But the realness. And I think there's something about we want to see how other people do it compared to what I do. Whether it's sex, whether it's how you spend your Sunday, whether it's like, you know, when you're alone and you talk to yourself or whatever it is. Like, am I weird? Am I different? Am I cool? Like, I want to know based on you doing you without you knowing I'm watching.
Yeah, or even if you, or if there's something about someone allowing you in too. So even if they know, because like a lot of these things are people like, you know, hey, I'm going to film my life. I guess that's why. Do you remember like when the Osbournes first did their reality
like all
show
of
on
reality
MTV.
shows, yeah.
Then it's like that blew up into this thing that's turned into like, you know, a multi-billion-dollar you know, product for so many different people.
Reality shows were so, like when they first came out, when they actually were more of a reality, you know what I mean? Because now it's like there's production, there's editing, like you can create whatever story you want. But I feel like back then it was actually just people living their lives and people were watching. Really?
I disagree. I think it's always been this.
Really?
I think there's always been the masterminds behind television production knew that, you know, making people, it's the reason why documentaries are so popular is because there's this falseness to them that like, well, this is true. This is like an encyclopedia. So when you present something as a documentary, no matter what narrative you have on the documentary, people are going to look at it and give it clout because the word documentary is on it.
Well, I guess it's like it's always through someone's lens, right? Like everything that you see that's made by somebody else is going to be through someone's lens. I think though that's why, going back to my creepiness, that's why I want to see when people don't know, because then it's not through a lens. It's just like, other than the actual physical, there's a lens watching somebody. Like you're not editing what you're doing if you don't know I'm watching. Like that's the true essence. Like, I want to steal your essence. I want to know what you're doing when nobody is around. You know what I mean?
That is creepy.
Yeah. I think it's super creepy. But I just find things fat. Like, I'll sometimes just watch people when I'm like, you know, in a cafe or something, just kind of like watch somebody live their life. And I'm like, this is so fascinating. Like, what could be happening right now? Like, what are they doing? Who are they talking to? Why are they getting so upset? Like, just that whole, I don't know. I think it's like, there's a creativity in that too, like watching people and seeing how you interpret what's going on.
Yeah, but isn't that like the nature of being a comic though too? Is that like, you know, we don't even realize it, but we're subconsciously searching for material at all times.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
It's like, you know, there's like an analyzing that goes on when like every time you see something happen and you go, oh, look at this, and this is how I see it. But we need that stimulus,
the content from the exterior. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, definitely. And then you put it through your own lens, and that's what you like. That's why people can talk about the same stuff over and over, but each person has that different take on it, or that, you know, they go in a slightly different direction.
Have you always wanted? Have you always wanted to be a comic? Like, where are you from originally?
What's his story? No, I have not always. I
just want to, you know.
Yeah. I have not always wanted to be a comedian. I started out big athlete. That's what I really did. Yeah, before. So I was a
volleyball.
No, I'm only 5'4".
Okay, you look tall right now.
Yeah. I got this upward lens going on. Yeah. No, I played basketball and did track and field, and then played soccer to a high level, and then ended up playing in university and playing pro, and then going and playing in a men's league in South Korea. Oh. And yeah, that was sort of like my life was. I studied sports psychology in university, and everyone I think thought I was going to continue on doing that and be like a broadcaster or a coach or a, you know. And then
why didn't you?
I was like, I don't know. Like, this doesn't seem like, I think a lot of when I was growing up, it was like, I was good at something. So people were just like, great, here's opportunities for that thing. And I was like, okay. You know, I never really chose anything. I was kind of like just going with the flow of things and having a good time. And I was good at sports, so I played sports. And then I ended up playing to a high level. But then at the end, I was like, is this really what my whole life is? Like, am I in this nutshell of just I'm an athlete? And it didn't feel at all like me. I had injuries. I knew I wasn't going to be able to play forever. I didn't want to coach. I had no interest in coaching. So I was like, okay, I got to figure my life out, you know, and just kind of quit all that completely. And then went in
with no regrets, none at all.
Everyone was like, "You're gonna regret this," and it wasn't even like I was like, you know, that hanging on. I was never getting playtime. I was still at like not quite my peak, but like, you know, I was still up there doing well, playing on a team that was doing well. And yeah, I have no regrets. I'm like, I had a great time. I don't want to play. So I have no interest in playing soccer on a team in like an organized league whatsoever. I would love to play in like a weekend tournament where you get to drink beer, but like, that's it. That's all I want. I'm too competitive in my mind and not in shape enough to be able to like have those two, you know what I mean?
Let me ask a question then. Okay. So then was part of the reason why you didn't continue in it is because it's like, if I'm not in it, I don't want to just like, I don't want to coach. I don't want to be a broadcaster because I was a high level athlete. So if I can't do that, I don't want nothing to do with this.
Yeah. I'm not interested in being on the sidelines and like being like, here's what you should do. And I think part of it is, to be honest, I never grew up being like, I want to be an athlete. You know what I mean? So I wasn't like the mentality of like strategize and chalk talk and all this stuff. I was just like, I don't know, I'm going to go out and play. And I know that when this happens, I do this. I don't know why. I don't know what the system is. I just go and I play and I score lots of goals. Like that was just the thing. So to be a coach, like I really didn't actually have the insight and the ability to explain. Like I'd be like, just go there because that's where you should know to go. Like there's
got you.
Teacher in that sense of me. But yeah, like I don't want to, like when I watch the World Cup now, I'm like chomping at the bit. And like, I want to be back. Like there's a part of me that's like, oh, remember when we were that level? And like, oh, it felt like I'm just like, I want to get back there, but I'm not going to train 4 hours a day. Why? Like that, I'm done.
Well, that was going to be you answered one of the question I was going to ask next is, do you have that, obviously you still have a competitive fire. I mean, so it's not just for sports then, right? Yeah. I mean, it carries over. Does it carry over into everything you do?
Yeah, I think I think definitely I'm very competitive and my husband will be like, she's real competitive, to a fault probably in certain ways. But like
you race into the mailbox.
Like when our kid, we have a like I just had a baby a little while ago, right? And when like this is how my competitive nature comes out. Like I want the kid to love me the most. You know what I mean? Like this is it's ridiculous. But like
you're the worst.
I know. When he wakes up, I like race to get in there faster. So I'd be like, "Hey, baby, it's me. Your mama's waking." Like I'm like, there's that in me where I just want to be, the best mom possible. And momming is like, you can never be good at it. Like it's just you're always failing. So I think that's the part where it's like bad,
Right.
Right after Mother's Day yesterday, I'm like, mothering is impossible.
Mother's Day. I didn't look at these are the more interesting things about you. One, you're married, you have a kid. That's your first kid?
Yeah, first.
Okay, so congratulations and happy Mother's Day.
Thank
Even
you.
though this might come out like weeks after Mother's Day, this is current for us, so happy Mother's Day to you.
Yeah, thank you.
So you're really pursuing a difficult field right now then with all this marriage, a kid, and then still trying to get into this mostly male-dominated profession. How is that all that going for me? And the reason why I asked that is because of something that you said about being the one female on a Korean men's team. Is that what happened?
It's a very strange.
How is that?
I went over and played, so it was a men's league in Korea, mostly expats from the UK and from America and Canada who had played professionally before or whatever at a high level, and they were in this league. And I went over, one of my friends, a guy I knew from university, played in the league, and he's like, I was in this job and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and he's like, you should come over, you can play on our team, I'll get you into the tryouts, and then, you can work teaching to make some money on the side and stuff like that. And I went, and he was like, he just told them, he's like, yeah, my buddy's going to come from Canada and try out for the team. And so I show up, and they're like, oh, that's cute. His little girlfriend's going to put on her cleats and like kick a ball on the side. And then
you saw
I was
that
like,
challenge right away.
No, for real. Then I was like, oh, what was that? And I went on the pitch, and it was like a scrimmage for the first tryout, and I scored 3 goals. And they were like, oh, okay, shit. Like we can't ignore this. We can't just pretend she's not good and not have her on the team. So I ended up like getting on the team, and it was a shock for every other team because there'd never been a female player. There was no rules, a strict rule against having a female. It was just called a men's league. So they didn't say women couldn't play, but every time I went, they would always be like, you have a woman? And they'd be all up in their face. And I'm like, oh, you're going to let a little girl on a team scare you? And they're like, oh yeah, you're right. Let's do this, And then I would be like a vicious, like full on. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Like I really am very, very competitive, especially if there's anything about like gender stuff. It gets like the hair on the back of my neck up, and I'm like, okay, now it's on,
Do you categorize yourself as a feminist then?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, like, I think it's kind of a dirty word. I grew up just with, like, not being a feminist. I just grew up with both of you kids are the same shit. You know what I mean? Gotcha. So it wasn't like my brother and I weren't treated super differently. There were a few things that were different, you know what I mean? But like, I didn't grow up thinking like I've got to be in dresses and I should be trying to find a man and I should be getting married and all this kind of stuff.
Even though ironically you did all that.
I know. I mean, it took a long time. My mom at my wedding, she made this speech where she was like, we had just resolved that it was never going to happen. We were never going to have kids from her. She was never. And I was like, okay, great. Like, yeah, I'm old and now I'm finally doing it. We got it.
They put you in spinster status and started looking at cat.
100%. But the funny thing is we got married and like on our honeymoon, we got pregnant. So it was like, I was like from single lady to married with a kid within like a year. It was just like full on transformation, which was, a lot.
I feel like that's part of your competitive thing too. Like your whole family was like, oh, you're never going to find a man and have a kid. And you were like, oh, really?
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
But come here. Let's do
that wedding night. Get me pregnant.
Oh man, yeah, no, it was kind of one of those things where I'm like, I'm not a spring chicken, and we were like, yeah, we'll start trying. It takes people like years, and then like before we could finish that sentence, we're like, oh shit, like we got a baby now, you know.
Damn. So like, but getting back to like this, so I see your competitive nature, and gender issues like trigger you, and so like so how's comedy then affected you in the last like 3 or 4 years, especially on the heels of the Me Too movement and the changes and all the changes that are there changes? You know what I mean?
There's changes. I mean, like, this is the thing. It's the same shit that happens everywhere. You know what I mean? It's not like this is unique to comedy or entertainment or, this is like the thing that's happening to women and men and people who are different, like transgender people. Like, it's just the same stuff that's happening everywhere. Like, white men have ruled for a very long time. We're all just trying to climb and like, figure that out and make it equal. That's why I'm like, I don't know if I would call myself like, I'm a strict feminist or something. I'm just like, I think all people should just be treated the same, like old, young, black, white, whatever. Like, just everyone's a person. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, let's just all be the same.
Yeah, need a word like an equalitist.
Yeah, right. Like an equalist.
Yeah,
equalist. I'm an equalist.
I don't know. I understand. I understand what you're saying, and I don't bring that up to make you uncomfortable about it or anything like that. I mean,
no, I mean people ask me that all the time.
I could tell by your reaction that it's just one of those questions. It's like. And that's part of the problem, I guess. It's like, here we go. I'm a woman. I'm trying to do this. I've said this. So here's the question about this. How am I dealing with it?
People say to me, what's it like being a black woman in comedy? And I was like, I've never been a white man in comedy. I don't know what to tell you, like how the difference is. I just know my experience. Maybe there's stuff because I'm a woman. Maybe there's stuff because I'm black. But like, I mean, honestly, in my whole life, I've been doing a lot of stuff that's been in a male-dominated field. So for me, it doesn't feel that shocking. To have people sometimes say like, oh, women aren't funny, or, I'm not, people aren't really saying that anymore. But like, what's really more bothersome to me sometimes is when all this stuff happens, people go, oh, we want to interview you because you're a woman. And I'm like, can you interview me because I'm funny or because you like what I'm doing? Or, you know what I mean? All those other things that are the reason why I'm doing this. And like, I have something to say, like, but about that stuff. And so a lot of times when there's just people like, we want to interview you because you're black. We want to interview you because this happened and it's women. And we want to, like, I'm like, it's still like a quota, essentially. Like, I'm that token thing. So it'll be interesting when there's more people just interviewing me because they like my album or they, thought this bit was funny or whatever it is,
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's just like, it's a difficult, I mean, listen, I'm in a different boat, but like we're on the same sea,
Yeah.
Just, you know what I mean? Just being like, being a minority in any business, it's like a weird, and every time we think like things are different, then there's something in the news that makes you go, damn, that happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and recently, it's always these waves, right? We're like, okay, it's all the same. It's the same shit that's going on all the time. But, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of tiring in a way, which sounds bad. Do you know what I mean? Like where this is the thing we're always focusing on, I know what you mean. But at the same time, it does exist. So I'm not going to like deny that exists or anything. But
you know what? I'm listen. Just so you know, I'm totally on the same page with you on this. I mean, I can just tell by your facial expressions and stuff like that too. I totally get what you're saying. It's like let me tell you where I'm at right now. Like when this time I watch a movie, right? If the movie is like some kind of period piece and it's pre 1970, I'm like, I don't know if I want to watch it because one, there better be racism in it because that's the world we were living in,
right?
And two, if there's racism in it, I don't want to watch the shit. You know what I mean?
Like,
so I'm like,
needs to be accurate, so I can say I don't want to watch it.
Yeah, because at some point I get to a point where I'm like, this again.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, but at the same time, I go, I understand the message is important. Yeah. I'm not trying to be like, oh, I don't think this is important. But at a certain point, you just go, really? Another, a white guilt movie?
I know. I'd like to, because then they always say like the period pieces, like, because I'm an actor as well, right? Just like you're an actor, I feel like we're all actors as well. But this idea that, there's so many roles, they're like, well, it's a period piece. There's not really a lot of roles for people who aren't white. And I'm like, we existed though, right? Like we were still around. Who's making the period pieces that happened at that time from the other people's perspective? Like that would be I want to see more of that stuff. You know what I mean?
I feel you, but at the same time, it's like you go, what were the like? Okay, yeah, you like what were the upper middle class, upwardly mobile? What were the rich black people doing in 1960? It's like where are those stories?
What were the rich people doing? I feel like that's what we're seeing a lot of.
No. I'm saying like, what I'm saying is like, I agree with you. It's like, period piece. It's like, okay, so the important things in period seem to be only white.
Right. Yeah.
And then the things that are black or any minority, it's always overcoming some shit white people did.
Right.
Like those are the stories. So it's like we're saying, where are the stories of just white people living in a neighborhood? Right.
And just that contained neighborhood and like, I was the love story or the like, like I think that part of it too is even how we describe it, right? Like the stories then, the black story, but the white side of it is the period story. Like their history and we're the asterisks of history, Yeah. That's like the black version.
But the fact that we even like, I hate that I even think of it like this.
I know.
Like when I watch something, I just go, oh, you're making me think about this. That's why I like science fiction. I want to get lost in like something else.
Right.
And then even in that stuff, you're like, there was, you might be like, well, there was no black kids in this made up universe or something,
they can be green, but they can't be black.
I mean, it's just so, like, I just want to get to a point where I don't even think about that. I don't even want that to be a thing.
That's why I think I'm like an equalist. You know what I mean? I don't want to think about this stuff. I just want to like see what I'm seeing out there reflected in art and in all these, it sounds very artsy fartsy, kind of like, I want my art to reflect the real life. It's like, but yeah, but
by the way, I don't subscribe to that all the time either. I mean, I'm going to Hollywood to escape. You know what I mean? So if I'm watching CSI something or other, I want my CSI agent to be hot. You know why? Because if I want to see ugly people, I could just go to the post office or wherever else. I mean, everyday life is ugly. I'm trying to escape. I'm trying to be. But it's the reason why.
There also has to be room for the shows for the people who aren't the good looking people. Like I grew up in Canada, and like the show. The show that was the most famous for me was Degrassi. Now, Degrassi
love Degrassi
is all good-looking people. But when it started, I'm telling you, if you go back, I don't even know if you can find them, but if you can go back and find the first Degrassis, they got zits, they got bad hair, they're chunky. Like it's real life people, which I'm like,
but the only reason that stood out because you had all the other things. So that was like,
it was also gimmick. Canadian. It was like the only thing Canada could afford. We're like, I don't know, pull these kids off the street, put our camcorder.
You know what's funny about Degrassi is like, it was also like they were true to age. So like, it was like you would see high school kids and be like, these guys are young because like, in the United States, I mean, 28, you're a senior in high school on these shows.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you
I was on Degrassi as a teacher, and like at the time then too, I was like old enough to be a teacher, but because when they like dressed me hip, they're like, oh man, you look too young. So they started dressing me more like Marm-ish. So they had like turtlenecks and these long skirts because they're like, we're playing to age, but you're, the black don't crack ruined this story.
Wait, are you from Canada?
Yeah, I grew up in Canada.
Oh, wow.
I was born in Nigeria. I'm half Nigerian, but I grew up in Canada.
Oh, yeah. So you related to Obama? And no kidding. That's how people think that.
Well, he's from Kenya, Africa. So yeah.
But anytime you're from Africa, that's what I'm saying. Anytime you're from Africa and you mixed.
I know, yeah. It's like we're the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me get in on that Obama money.
Yeah, I grew. I was a kid in the '80s, so it's like being light skinned was like back in the 80s, it was like a big deal. Like that was like some kind of, we got the light skin hate. I don't know. That sort of went away. I think it went away like mid 90s, and then it just, we got lumped in with everybody else, where it was like,
that you became like sort of just like you were part of the black culture.
Yeah,
that was it. Yeah. I was like, I always grew up being like, when I go to Nigeria, they literally thought I was white. And they would yell like, "Hey, white kid!" in the street, obviously in House or Europe or whatever. But and then I would come home to Canada and like I was like the black friend. So I really was like, "What the fuck? Like this is too. I don't know what's going on." And then my dad was working in South Africa, and I was going to South Africa. And if you've never been, being a mixed race person, you're gonna go and be like, "Oh, look at all these people who look exactly like me." Like having grown up there would have been such a joy in certain ways. Right. I mean, obviously not at that time, but like. But like to see people who looked like me, because in Canada where I grew up, there weren't a lot of black people. There weren't a lot of there was less mixed people. So I wasn't seeing anybody that I could be like, yeah, we have a similar, oh no, we don't. Like when I went to South Africa, I was literally like, they call them colored. Like that's the non-offensive term for like these people who are mixed black and white. And I was like, I am colored. I have found my people. I was like, this is the thing.
It's a weird feeling, but see, that's weird that you say that, because it's a weird feeling that we still feel like that. Is that something innate in us to be like, want to be around people that look like us?
I think it's evolutionary. You see people who are the same as you, and you go, oh, okay, like. You understand, there's this unspoken, like the black man nod, like the black lady kind of like, how you doing? Like there's just something that you connect on, whether you connect in real life or not, but you give it this thing, which is even weird because like my mom is like the whitest white lady who's ever lived. So, you know what I mean? And I have a lot in common with her, but like if I saw her on the road, like people saw me and my mom on the street, like meeting up, they would be like, how did these two people meet? Like it's just doesn't make any sense if you look at it.
It's my mom.
Yeah. So many times people at shows or something, they'd be like, I think your mom's here. And they'd point out some black lady in the front row. And I was like, oh, no. You're going to see my mom. She's going to glow the place up when she walks in. Don't worry.
I like that a lot of times people from Canada, they don't understand the American, this racial divide between black and white. But it's not because there's no racism in Canada, because
we just have
there's
different
a lot
racism.
of racism. There's just misconception that there's no racism in Canada, and that ain't true, because they can't stand the Aborigines or whoever those
Aboriginal,
people.
Indigenous people,
these
like
people, they're out there shutting down the trains and all shutting down the trains. It's actually what's going on there right now is equivalent and sometimes worse than what's happening in the United States.
Yeah, it's like a different story, because here black people were brought over against their will, and then made slaves and all this stuff. There, white people came into this land and were like, yeah, now this is ours. And they were like, so then, and still today, like a couple years ago was Canada's 150th, anniversary, birthday, whatever. And Justin Trudeau and all of the government had still never apologized to the Indigenous people of Canada for stealing the country. And And so he had this opportunity, and instead he threw a party called Party at the Fort, which is historically where all of the, fur traders and people who came over, Europeans, they would make a fort around themselves to keep themselves away from the Indigenous people. And like, that was his celebration of Canada. They were just like, you've got to be kidding me right now. Like the insensitivity of it all, So yeah, there's definitely racism in Canada. But like people, when I moved here, expected me to really in my bones experientially understand the plight
American
and the racism and the culture of it. And it was almost like I felt like I was appropriating a culture, because people would like put that on me, like, oh, you get it, you come on, sister. And I was like I understand through reading and watching and talking to people, but like not that I don't want to be on the side. I'm like, I want to be on the side. I just don't want to pretend like this is what I grew up with, because it's just not,
You know what? I know exactly what you're saying. It's very interesting, because I have my family's from like Belize.
Okay.
And so I have family from Belize, Central America, Jamaica, Honduras. This is where my family, but like Belize, for instance, was a slave port, but they got their independence in the 70s. So the experience of like Caribbean Americans, so when Caribbeans come to the United States, they don't have the same experience.
Right.
And understanding that people that grew up in the United States who are black, so there's like a divide there, because because they're like, well, we got our independence, we have a country, we have a culture, we have a thing, and the American black people are like, what are you talking about? We, even though around the same time, more culture has been grown from the black experience, like jazz and soul food and all these things that there is a culture, but it just grew in a place of, you know, wickedness, you know what I mean? Came from after post slavery stuff, but a culture was formed. But when black people come from different places, I understand they just don't have the same experience. And
totally.
Like, I didn't grow up having this hate of white people either.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
I always thought it was strange. I'll never forget I used to go to the Beverly Hills YMCA. I don't know why my mom took me there. She was like, "Just go. I'm taking you to the Beverly Hills YMCA." You know, and I remember the first time I ever experienced racism was this white kid. You know, he said, "Oh, I don't want to go in the pool with you because your skin is dirty." You know. And I remember
it's hurtful as a kid.
But
I don't know.
You know, but I wasn't mad per se. I really was like, "Oh, it's happening."
You're
you know
like,
what I mean? I was like,
dear diary, it happened today.
I was like, oh wow, I had my first racist experience. I was like, oh, this is interesting. And my brain has always been like that, where I just wanted to be like, yo, why do you feel this way? Like, tell me why you think that. You know,
you're like interviewing him. Like, I want to get this.
I wanted to like. I was just like, I always have thought about it that way. And so then as later in life, and like racism like goes away, as it's not as prevalent as it was. You know, you go from. But it's crazy though, because I'm going all over the place, but it's interesting to me, like, to watch, like, when that OJ documentary came out. Did you ever watch that ESPN OJ documentary?
No, I watched a little, like a snippet, but not.
Oh, well, what's interesting about it is in the beginning of it, they were going back to like the 50s, 60s, 70s, and what was going on with the police back then. And so you hear those things and you go, damn, why is that stuff still happening? Not on such a big scale, but you go, that stuff's still happening. Then you have like the Rodney King, and you have all these things that happen. And then like now you have this like guy, you know, I forgot the Aubrey, whatever the guy's name is, who was hunted down by these two white people. And they've been out of jail for like 70 days, and now there's like some kind of conspiracy about it. You just go, damn, that kind of stuff still happens. But you know,
it's not. It just reminds you. Like today, I was like, my album's out. I'm posting these videos and stuff, and I have a 800-pound Gorilla Records made this great like animated video of part of one of my jokes, and it starts off, "Black people make the world better." And it's a whole joke about how, like, you know, you can't, a lot of the good things that are here is because Black people did it. And then someone's like, oh, let's take that and let's roll with it. You know what I mean? And it, you know, in the end, it's kind of this joke about appropriation, essentially. And I posted that and I'm loving it. And just before you called, I saw on my Facebook page, some guy, I don't know who he is, but some guy posted and he was like, yeah, that's why you make great slaves. And then he put all these like happy laughing emoji faces. And then he wrote back again and he was like something about like, yeah, fuck you, you stupid ass bitch. And I was like to me, it was like kind of like funny because I'm like, this is just like bad racism. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is like nothing. This is not affecting me in a way that makes me feel bad. It's just like so like, I don't even want to call it low-hanging fruit. It's like below that. You know what I mean? It's the rotting fruit that's on the ground, and you're like, come on, give me something better. Like, make fun of my shape, my face, my hair, like something. Give me something I can work with. Yeah,
it's like, I think that we're from a generation right now that, like, that kind of stuff isn't as hurtful.
Yeah. Because
it's just like, really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I just go, I agree with you. I go, do better. Call me fat. You know, like, tell me my beard looks stupid, or, you know, but it's like, you're going to go with, make it personal, but it's like, to some people, you know what I think it is? I think that there's a generation of white people who are mad that they never got their opportunity.
To be racist.
Yeah. Like they never got there. It's like, oh man, this has passed them by. So now, like, even when they're not being racist, like I had this joke about like younger millennial and maybe in their 30s white people right now.
Sorry, there's a big motorcycle going past me right now. I don't know what's happening.
I don't even hear. Oh, okay. But I had this joke about them that like racism to them is like being in an elevator where somebody already farted. You know? So like they're
like experiencing it second.
Yeah, like so you're in the elevator. You walk in the elevator and you're like, ooh, somebody farted in here, and then some white people come in and you go, no, some black people come in and the white people go, I didn't do that. This fart been here. That wasn't me. You know, so I think that there's like a segment of people, and like especially the ignorant ones who were just like, oh, I remember when this used to be okay. I remember when this would hurt people. And you're just kind of like, you just look stupid.
Yeah.
You know,
like he does look stupid because it's just ridiculous. Like Like, I feel like sometimes you just want to give those people, like, do you want a day? Do you need just like a day to go outside and yell all your things and get it out of your system or whatever
like the purge?
Yeah, the purge. White people purge. You know what I mean? Go outside, yell the N-word. Like, you've got your 1 hour. Just do your thing. Come back inside and let's all be civilized. And you know what I mean? Like, get it out of your system, because it's not going to change what I'm doing. It doesn't make you, like, it doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't do anything for me. Like, can we just stop wasting space here?
Well, in fairness, though, like, it's like what we were talking about earlier. Is like there's something about, there's a tribalism about seeing people that look like you and feeling your own. I mean, that's the thing too. Is like there's a segment of people who are white who feel the same way.
Yeah.
They feel like I like seeing white people. My mom's white, my dad's white. I want to date a white woman, and I just feel like I think sometimes preference gets
but I think it's
misconstrued.
Like, there's something about this, how everyone is now mixing in the world, where like you said, my mom's white, my dad's white, so I'm white, my friends are white, blah blah blah, so everything I see is white. So I get, like, there's a part of me that's like tribally, I get that you're like, white people are great, all the white people I know are wonderful, they're my friends, they're my family, they love me, they look after me, but for me, for you, like, I'm like, I got a white mom, I got a black dad, I got a Korean friend. I got so it's like, for me, it's this other total like mosaic of things where I'm like, this is my tribe. I'm not looking at color. Like, you're looking at like personality or whatever. My dad used to talk about this, how he's like, it's very interesting to me how in America and like North America, people describe people by their hair color, their eye color, their skin color. He's like, I don't even notice that, because growing up, everybody had black hair, black skin, and black eyes. Like, so you had to look at like the nose features, the mouth feature, how they speak, their mannerisms.
They found other ways to be prejudiced.
Right? Like, but it's like, that's the thing, is like, if you are surrounded by people where there's differences, then it's like those things aren't the things that separate you anymore. It's like you find your tribe being like, I like people who like soccer. I like people who like this, whatever. And maybe it is, we're finding different ways to sort of compartmentalize, but I don't know. I think that, and in all fairness, if there's a world where racism ever goes away, then it's going to be like, but everybody who's under 5'2" are real crazy. You know what I mean? There's just going to be something else.
I totally agree. Or like when the aliens attack, all of a sudden we're going to all be human.
Right, exactly. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? So it's like, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's just, we just want some open-mindedness. I mean, so even I say to people, if you're white, you're watching this and you're just like, I have a lot of white friends. It doesn't mean I'm racist. And I agree. It doesn't mean you're racist. But it's also, but are you welcoming to people? Like, that's all you want it to be. It's like, I don't mind if you have a tribe, but just like, make your tribe open, make your tribe.
That's why there's, though, like, I would like to know, why do you only have white friends? Is it because you live in some isolated place where there's only white people? In which case, fine. You know what I mean? Fair enough. That's all the opportunity you had. But that's not really how anyone lives anymore. And we might think like, oh, well, it's like, why are there only white people on the screen? Well, there's just lots of white actors to choose from and lots of, you know what I mean? This kind of thing. But it's like, well, is it because like the system is made to like shift your focus to only this thing, and then you pick from this thing? Like, let's open it up, like you're saying, and like think about do I only have white friends?
It's tough too. And by the way, it's funny you said we transitioned, but it's a Hollywood, so it's not this greater thing. But like, I had this guy on my podcast. I just released it today. His name's Clive Standen. He's on this show, Council of Dads, on NBC. And it's a really great show. It's so dramatic, but in a good way. Like, my girl watches it and she freaking cries, But like, anyway, the thing that first interested me when I was watching the show that made me kind of go, oh, brother, because it was like, oh, a transgender kid, a black gay doctor, the adopted light-skinned kid. I was like, oh, you're trying to fill all the things, right? But then I stopped myself and said, oh, I only think that way because everything's white.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then when you see something that's not, you start to go, oh, what are you guys doing? Are you filling a quote? It's like, no, they're not filling it. We just got to get more used to it. That's all it is. Like with anything. You know what I mean? Like with anything. So it's just like,
when you see it, it normalizes it. When you're around it, it normalizes it. It's like,
But once you get into the story of it, you go, oh, you forget about all those, like, because I hate the fact that I feel a checkbox in my head. I hate that when I watch a show and I go, it's like you like, especially for a long time, you see a black woman you'd be like, okay, well, they got that figured out. It's like, that used to be the thing. It would be like, oh, let's have a black woman that covers like female, black, ethnicity, boom, boom, boom. Put her in a wheelchair, and you're like, oh,
make her a lesbian wheelchair black lady.
You know what I mean?
This is why, like, the story has to be good though. Like, this is part of it. Is sometimes you put a black woman, and it's like, oh, let's ask Chandra. Tell us black things. It's like, it doesn't have to be pointed out that this person's black. It doesn't have to be pointed out that this person's in a wheelchair, whatever. I remember when I first watched How to Get Away with Murder. And
love that show. That's my jam.
Good.
That's my jam.
And like Viola Davis, who is a dark-skinned black woman and is just like as in all perfect ways as black as can be. You know what I mean?
She's 11:30. She's 11:30. Right. We're like 6:45, but she's 11:30.
And it's like, delicious, right? But like they had her married to a white guy, and they never mentioned it. It was not a part of anything. It did not come up. There wasn't some sort of big racial thing all the time. There was a couple times when it came out, and that was when it would come out as it would in any relationship. I'm married to a white guy. We don't talk about being a black person and white. Like, that's just not how our day is, but every once in a while that stuff does come out. But I loved it because the storytelling wasn't about she's a black woman, he's a white man. It was just these two people.
You know what it was more about is, because I watched that show today. I still watch it.
Oh, yeah.
It's more about that guy's preference was black women.
Right, right, and how that
it made it different. Where it's like you go because when they go to his past relationships and it's another black woman, you go, oh, that guy likes black women. You know what I mean? So that's the only reference you make to it, and then you're done.
Right.
As opposed to like, but see, again, I've talked about this other times on my podcast too with other people. It's just, when you're writing, because this is what I hate, and I bet you've experienced this too. You go in for a part, all right, and you're reading it, and reading this is for somebody white. They wrote it for somebody white. This experience that this person's having, even in this scene, this is supposed to be a white person, but they probably were like, "Oh shit, we wrote another white show. Let's, you know what I mean?" Like,
change this up.
And in their credit, I mean, I'm sure it's not always. That's why I say that it's on the production level that things need to change.
Yeah.
Not when things have already been made.
Right.
So it's like things have already been made, and now like the Oscars comes around. Let's not penalize what's already been made and the people that have put the work in. If you really want to change what goes on, it has to be on the production level. It has to be with the writing, and it has to be with what shows get made and who's getting hired. That's the level that's where it needs to be done. So that's what happens to me is I go in for these shows because they're not writing parts for like, oh, let's get a mixed ethnic, whatever looking guy that we're not sure what he is. They're not writing that.
Right. But I think it's like, it goes back to that whole, like, the system of they're not writing it because they don't know the story. They don't have the experience. They probably don't have like 10 friends that look like you. They haven't, what I mean? And so if the they is like, who's traditionally been writing these things as white dudes in Hollywood, either they either it'll be beneficial if they knew people, knew those stories, or hired those people and had them tell the stories. And it wasn't just always through this one lens. You know what I mean? Because it's like, I've had lots of people write stories that are supposed to be for like a mixed black woman, and they're like, perfect, you're a mixed black woman, come and say these words, and you're reading it going, oh yeah, this doesn't resonate with me, this is not at all.
Yeah, who's this?
I was like, but I'm back onto that thing, something being written. There was a show I was on in Canada, and I was a new hire on it and became part of the cast, and I heard after the fact that one of the sketches that I was in, they like rewrote just the name of the person to be Chandra instead of Sharon. They were like, oh, we're going to make it black for her. Chandra, And I was like, this is the best. It's so great.
No, I totally get that too. If I see the name, I go, oh, they're going to change this. They're going to change this. Look, I was on this show, I'm Dying Up Here, and, it was one of these things that I think that the original idea for the character was supposed to be like a Viola Davis black.
Okay.
This is what they had in mind.
Yeah.
But what I did, the guy was like, oh, let's have him do it.
Yeah.
But then when it was time to make the show, it was like, were there people that looked like me from different races and ethnicities at that time in the 70s? And were they ready for this? So they definitely augmented the black side of my look.
Like they made you darker?
No, I had this afro.
Okay. They were like, we want to let you know he's a black man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
now, how did you feel about that though? Like, because that's like, that's the whole when they did the Nina Simone story and they gave what's her name who played. Oh my God. Anyway, they made her nose thicker. What is her name? But she's a mix, like same sort of like not mixed. She's like Central American or something like that. And they like made her blacker. And they were like, why didn't you just hire like Viola Davis? Like with one of the people they said like a black woman who has a thick nose and stuff. But I don't know, like, how did you feel about being made more black?
Yeah, I did. At the time, it was just I wasn't thinking about it until like I thought about it like I knew what was happening. So at the time, I was just like, oh, you want me to wear this wig? And I was like, okay. I thought to myself, I guess they want to make sure people know this person's black.
Right, right.
And then and in the first season, the wigs were cheap. Yeah. Like they didn't realize how important.
Hire someone who does like black. Can I just put this out there? Please hire people who do black people's hair and makeup.
And that's what they did, by the way. Season 2, they did hire. There's just my girl Carla. They hired, and I knew her from Workaholics. She was like the hair person but she knew too. It was like a certain way it needed to be done. So I went to this really expensive wig person, and the wig that I had for the second season looked more like this could be my hair.
Right. Yeah.
So as opposed to but I know what you're saying. Like I'm thinking about it in retrospect now. Like how should I have felt about it, or how do I feel about it now? I mean, it's weird. You know what I mean? It's like, am I appropriating a part of the culture that I wasn't really a part of,
right?
Or am I just playing a part? Is the same way that the Joker puts on makeup,
right?
You know what I mean? There's nobody that has green hair and makeup, but you're playing a character. Is that
that question of
I play a character?
Yeah, like acting is always playing somebody who you're not exactly. I was thinking of Zoe Saldana, and you know what I mean. And so, but like, the philosophical question is, if I'm going to act as anybody else, then why can't I act as more black or whatever? But then why can't a white person act as black, or why can't a person who's cis act as trans? And like, where is the line, or how does that work? And part of it is like, in the end, are they forcing me into this role? Like when they made Charlize Theron, gave her all that makeup for the role of Monster. It's like, just find a woman who's not the most beautiful woman in the world and let her act the role. There's tons of women who look more like that actual person. But like, am I taking a role away from somebody? But we're not, but also this is my craft and I want to be doing this, and like I'm getting a job and I want to take the job, and like it's not my responsibility.
Time too, Hollywood's not government assigned.
Right.
Like they're not government affiliated. This is a private business who has the right to, listen, famous people are. This isn't for like, let's make everybody get a role because they should get a role. Like I was totally against that. What's the lady that played? She was a Black Widow in Avengers, and she was going to be a transgender actress, and she got a lot of flack for it. And they were like, oh, so they canceled the role or whatever.
I don't know.
What's her name? Oh man, I feel like I need to look it up on the internet. But why am I forgetting her name? Like she's like so famous. Of course, you wouldn't know anything about the Avengers.
I'm the worst. It's not even that I don't know about the Avengers. I am the worst at remembering like celebrities' names.
Me too.
You know what I mean?
I'm so terrible at it. Scarlett Johansson.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson. So what I'm saying is like Scarlett Johansson is super famous. We're putting her in the movie because that's going to make people come see it. Mm-hmm. Like it's not our job to make sure that, some unknown transgender actress gets this part. Like it's like,
but then also it's like that slippery scale of like, then will a transgender ever get to be known? A transgender actor ever get to be known because they're always taking, you know what I mean? Like nobody gets to play. Like does that transgendered actor have to? Like, what do they have to do to get in the room for that part? Because maybe they're phenomenal. And then it would be like, great. You have that struggle that other people who are transgender have, that this character has, that someone else would have to learn or may never really.
I would like to believe that if someone is that brilliant, they're going to get a role.
I hope so.
That's how I feel about it. I would like to think that that's how this, because I feel that way, to getting back full circle to what we were originally talking about, is like comedy. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about comedy. I feel like if you're funny, you're gonna shine through. You're gonna get an opportunity. Are there more opportunities for people who are less talented, who are white? Probably, but I think
like comedy is like such an equal. It's a much more equal playing field because like you don't have to be pretty. You don't have to be. You know what I mean? Like you can be
right here.
But, you can do comedy to your old, like I'm thinking of like as a woman, generally in Hollywood, it's like they want us to be pretty. They want us to look young. Like for comedy, I don't have to be pretty. I don't have to look young. I can just, if I have something that's funny to say, people will laugh, and like you can go and do an open mic, especially in this city. There's like so many opportunities. And yeah, now with our phones and all this stuff, we can create our own things, but it's just not the same as like, a Hollywood movie. Like that's like a strike of lightning. And then when it does strike, like only a few people are going to get that opportunity. So it's not, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like I feel like comedy is a lot more equal in a lot of ways than TV and film and some stuff.
It's interesting that you feel that way because I don't necessarily look at it like that. I think I think there's very much a disproportionate amount of people in the comedy world that is very much about how you look. And that kind of, I think that is very much like a benefit. I mean, this is an image business too. I mean, it's like,
yeah, but I mean, there's lots of people who are funny and not good looking who do well.
But the ones that are very good looking and are, even if like, let's say you had a scale of like good looking here and comedy talent here. I think that this person is going to do far more than this person.
Do you think it's the same for like everybody, like men, women, black?
No. Okay. I think it's very different. That's why I'm saying it's not equal. Like I'll say this: I feel like that femininity on stage is scary to people in the crowd sometimes. I think that when a woman is on stage being a woman and beautiful, and sometimes people in the crowd have a weird reaction to that. Like that's why femininity is hidden so much. It's why you female comics wear ponytails and jeans and try to look like a boy on stage to like, so you could just get your point out there without, you know what I mean? Without
people seeing it. Yeah. I mean, like I think that women, like even when I post videos, vids, the comments that I get are often about the way I look, or this kind of stuff. And like I wear jeans because I move around and have deep squats. You know what I mean? Like I'm like,
no,
whatever.
Listen, I totally get it, but I'm saying you're not, it's like when's the last time you've seen a female comic on stage, not wearing a mini skirt, but I'm just saying like looking like girly.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I like to, when I have a show, I have like my show boots. And let me tell you.
You got your
show
boots?
Like that kind of thing. I got my show boots, but like, I don't like to play down my femininity. I'm not a super fancy, like tits out kind of person generally. So like, I like to play up me. And also now that I'm going out to shows, I'm like, mama's out of the house. Like, let's put some makeup on and let's do, you know what I mean? So when I go out to do this stuff, I'm like, not trying to play it down, but no matter if I do wear that other stuff, like I feel like people are still commenting anyway. So I'm like, well, I might as well wear what I want to wear and then like say what I want to say, because all people are going to say is she's fat, she's a whore, she's like, it's like the stuff's not going to be about the comedy. That's what, like, even when the guy was like, that's why you're good slaves, I'm like, did you like the joke? Like, I'm like, that's what's more important to me. Like, are you laughing? Did it, that's
well, in a certain way, like he was adding to your joke.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you know what I mean? In a certain way, it was like, he thought it was like, you're going to, you just go, okay, I see where you went with he loved the joke because he went with your logic. You know what I mean? He just appropriated it to something like terrible.
Exactly, yeah.
No, but I'm just saying, and again, getting back to this thing about equality, I just died. I don't know. I don't believe that it's equal because I feel like when a man's on stage, his masculinity is used to enhance his comedy. I
don't think it's equal.
Like an alpha male comic, being an alpha male on stage, being like a man masculine is very rewarding because, you could just look down the line of those type of comics who are like the most successful, actually.
That's how it's been for a very long time. And I don't think the comedy is equal. I just think it's like, I don't know, maybe because I'm a woman in comedy and also in, the business of like acting and stuff, that's definitely something I've heard from managers, agents, all these people, like, you've got to look better when you go for your auditions. You've got to learn how to do your like all these things that like guys just don't hear, you know what I mean? At the same level, in the same way. And like, how old am I? They wanted to hide my age all the time because I look younger than I am. And so they were like, we want you to go out for these other roles. Don't ever tell anyone your age. And I'm like, I'm not good at lying. Like, I don't want to be a part of that stuff. Whereas for comedy, no one's ever cared about how old I am. Yeah. You know what I mean? It just doesn't matter. Like, I did comedy the whole time I was pregnant and I went up on stage with this big belly and it was great because I was just like, deal with me now. Like, it was so much fun just to be like that is you cannot deny I am a woman when I'm there like 8 months pregnant waddling
that's better than your boots and makeup.
Totally, right? I was like, just no makeup on, hair askew, but I'm like, but look at the belly. I'm a woman, just it's it's just different, I think. I don't know.
I was taking some headshots one time, and the photographer's assistant was this like really strong lesbian woman. You know what I mean? Lesbian feminist. She was just so it was fun joking around with her. So I'm in her car. I'm in her car. That was a real interesting transition. No, but I'm saying because she's driving us to a different shoot, different location. So like in her car, she had one of these open glove boxes, and it was like a Passat or something, like you would stereotypical female car, right? And I look and I'm looking in this thing and I go, yeah, this is a real female car. And she goes, oh, why? Because it's whatever and this and that. I just go, no, it's probably this handful of tampons that are right here. You know what I mean? And I just loved it because it was like a moment where she was like, ugh, I'm being too much. And so then I was teasing her. It was teasing because I was like, oh, yeah, and you're a copy of the feminist mystique. You know what I mean? It's like...
and your pussy hat that you just tucked in here,
it's like not everything is that.
But
sometimes it's just,
You get I think that, I haven't experienced a ton of it because I think that I just don't notice it as much, maybe as some other people, you know what I mean? Don't notice being black because I grew up in a place where that wasn't as big of a thing. I don't notice being a woman as much because I grew up in a family that was much more equal. But when someone does say something that comes out of the blue and seems like off, I'm like, my brain instantly goes to, is it because I'm a woman? Is it because I'm black? Is it because of these? We have that where somebody else who's white and a man doesn't, he'd just be like, oh, this person's an asshole. Whereas I'm like,
I'm getting to this point now. I'm getting to the point now for me too. I feel like it's like, it's like I'm in my quarantine beard right now, I
know. I almost didn't recognize you when you came, and I was like, "Oh snap! Okay, I like it."
But the funny thing about it is I usually just have a mustache, and then I just did this movie, and then the creator, she was like, "Well, I really want your mustache to be dark. I want your hair to be dark." So I dyed, and sometimes I'll dye anyway, just because I like how it looks, right? But now I've done this. And it's like, now it's like, okay, is this me now? Am I this old guy? It's like now, can I go back? What, you know what I mean? I've been out.
This is the real question. Can you go back? Because now that this is happening, and just by the way, I think it looks good. Okay.
Well, I appreciate it. A lot of people are saying that. Even my girl likes it, but we even had a little thing about it the other day where she was like, oh, I think you should dye your hair. And I was like, yeah, but this is me now. I'm trying to accept that this is me, and
but it looks sophisticated.
Perception.
If you go in now and you dye it, it's gonna look so if everyone's been seeing you like this, it's gonna be such a shock to the system.
I know, that's what I'm saying. So I don't know. So we got into this whole thing about it because I even asked her. I said, "Why do you want me to dye it?" You know what I mean? Is it because of how you're gonna look with me? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like you already know I'm older than you. It's like, what am I gonna? You know what I mean? So but anyway, it just it becomes this thing that what you're talking about. So for me, it's like now I have a whole other host of things I have to worry about. So so I'm going in. It's like, oh, maybe am I too fat for this? Am I too old looking for this? Am I too ethnic for this?
Right. Everyone's got their things.
Everybody's got their things that they're always thinking about when somebody says something. So it's like, I guess we just have to have a moment of let me just pause. Let me not think the worst.
Right. That's a great point though. Thinking the best. And I think before I used to always assume the best in every situation. I was ridiculously positive and optimistic. You know what I mean? And then, not to say I've become grizzled, because I haven't. I'm still positive and optimistic about a lot of stuff. But I think moving to America and hearing people say stuff and hearing things and how things go and these jokes and stuff, sometimes I am like, oh, wow. Yeah, there's something else that I have never experienced that I am now anticipating people saying or feeling that I feel like I should be seeing. One of my friends was like, I hate white people. And I was like, I can never say that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can never say I hate white people because I don't, but also because my mom's white. And I'm not going to hate my mom. And he's like, yeah, but you have to understand, I've felt the oppression. I felt the racism. I felt that stuff. And I'm like, cool. Yeah. But doesn't that then cut off the ability for us to get along, which is the thing we want?
And when someone says something like that, they just go, I hate white people. And then my brain just goes to so you hate all white people. So like, you know what I mean? It's like, and I have a problem. See, I'm a tweener in terms of like, when I was a kid, like the idea of racism was heavy, you know? And then I've grown up in a world where it's like, it's different, you know? So it's like, but I still have people who think all white people are the man. That's that mentality. You know, my whole thing is like,
I don't like that like us versus them thing about like all this stuff. Like I feel like I rant a lot about like the different, you know, being a woman or being black after having said, I don't like to talk about it that much in the beginning of this. Yeah. But in the end, it's like, I don't want to separate us all the time. Cause I just feel like that's boring. You know, I don't want to only talk to people who have my same experience. That's boring. I can connect with them on that, but like that's not all I want. That's why people like to travel and see different things and try different foods and stuff. You know what I mean? It's different.
Well, I just think the sentence just needs to be unpacked is all it is. Like, you know, when somebody says I hate white people, I just think you just hate the idea of what it was before. And like, you just don't, I need to remember so it never happens again. I mean, some people just have that like mentality. And I just go like, you know, it's like you don't hate all white people. Not all white people are the man. And by the way, it's like, I feel it's more economical now than it is racial. Because my thing is like, if you're on the bus on the way to work and you're sitting next to a white guy, guess what? He's not the man.
He's driving. He's with you. I mean, not the same, but he's with you.
You know, like if you live in an apartment building and your next door neighbor is white, y'all living in the same place. Like, that means you the man. You know what I mean? It's like, so I'm just saying, like when people are like that, and it goes both ways. These people like this guy that wants like people that hate anyone. It's like, why? Yeah. Like, what has happened in your life right now to make you feel this way? Like the indoctrination that people must still have from their families that carries down. I mean, it takes generations for these things to go away. If you think about it, I always look at sports as an example of that. You know, like Jackie Robinson, the anniversary of Jackie Robinson joining the baseball league. There's people still alive, who hated black people.
Yeah.
They didn't send out a newsletter to all of America like, hey. What? Hey, guess what? We like black people now.
Well, it's and the thing is too, like, okay, so my mom's mom, you know, she was a white lady from rural Manitoba in Canada. Like she was, you know, she's that person who had never met black people, who had never done this. So when she was very upset that my mom married a black man. My dad's family was all real upset that he married a white woman. They're like, white devil, they take all of our people away. They never come back. Like, you know, and then it was like, it took that like interracial love coming together and then a baby. My brother was the firstborn grandchild on both sides. And it was like this kid who's a mix. And you can't hate a kid. Like, I don't care if you hate what you hate in your life, but you just can't. And my grandmother, you know, the story goes that my grandmother was like real upset. And then they showed her the first grandbaby. And she was like, you know, this is the most beautiful little N-word I've ever seen. And it's like this. My brother has a podcast about that kind of stuff where you're like, she was trying so hard to reach out and show love. Yeah. And to her, that word is normal. That's what you called black people. Like, that doesn't seem bad. You know what I mean? So it's like finding that balance of like, well, I'm not going to be like, well, screw you, grandma, for having lived in a time where this was just what happened. That's not your fault. But then now, like, you got to get the newsletter at some point and not be walking around yelling that word at people, especially when you're walking with your little Negro child, like, as she would call him as her nice version of the N-word. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of thing. Yeah. So there's still love. Well, there's still love in there. Even through all the hate and racism, there's still love. I
agree. I just think that, like, people say things and they just need to unpack it.
Yeah, totally.
Like, you need to unpack it and find out. Why? Like, why? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, to get it back to comedy, it's like, you know, I always say, please don't assume ill intent of this joke that I just said. For you to assume ill intent means that, you know, you don't understand the process of what comedy is even about. Yeah. Maybe if you just go, oh, I didn't appreciate that, or I thought that was a little off color, or I thought that was inappropriate, is one thing. But to assume like, oh, you said this thing, so that means you hate women, you hate blacks, you hate this, you hate. It's like, no, it's just maybe it's a joke that didn't hit with you.
Right. You know yeah. But I saw the greatest. Go ahead.
Okay. No. Okay. So I was gonna say, because we've been talking for like an hour, so I just was gonna like get to it, because I want to hear more about your about your album and where it is and how people can see it and how people can hear it and watch it?
So the album just came out on Friday. Very exciting. It's called All the Parts. And it's like basically the story of me. You know what I mean? Like I talked about my whole life and going from being a single woman to now being a married woman with a child. It's a lot of fun. Super proud of it. All Things Comedy produced it. And then 800 Pound Gorilla Records released it on their label. So it's on iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, all the places you can get albums there. And the special will be coming out in July.
My little video I'm doing.
My little thing I'm doing. It'll be coming out in July. I just spoke with the ATC guys just about trying to nail down what day it's going to come out. It'll be on a Monday in July, but I'll be posting about it. So yeah, there'll be some time to get the jokes in the head, audio, and then you can see how they got acted out on stage.
Well, that's great. I mean, I really listen. I appreciate all that you're doing. I like your perspective. I think
thanks, man.
I feel like we're doing that thing like. We're seeing each other, and I realized there is a shared experience of being like mixed race.
Yeah,
and like because it's hard to hate anybody when you're mixed race,
right? Yeah,
because you start to hate people for their intentions. You start hating people for their actions, for their reactions,
the person, not for the person.
Yeah, because it's just the nature of this. Because I always say my long-standing joke is like I'm fine with not knowing, like not being whatever. Except for if I was in jail, because I wouldn't know what gang to join.
Right. It's just you and one other mixed guy. Like, all right, we got this. Let's do this.
It's like for me, it's like whoever's winning. Are the Mexicans winning? Okay.
That's a great sketch. I want to see you make that sketch. That's so good.
I should. You're right. It's like just whoever's winning in here. I'm Muslim. I'm whatever you need.
Assalamu alaikum, my brothers. They're like, no, we saw you over there. Yeah.
And like for me, it's like I pride myself on being like, I've been on like BT. Mm-hmm. I've been on, Comedy Central, I've been on different, like I was on my first ever TV appearance was the Payaso Comedy Slam, and it was like a Latino based. So
you're all the things.
Yeah. I'm like,
you're every woman that Shaka Khan was talking about, just in this form,
Yeah. So it is what it is. But listen, I wish you all the best. I wish you much success. And,
thanks, man.
Next time I see you, I'm not going to be like,
did we sleep together? Or
I just didn't remember. I was like, when I said I didn't know you, I just meant I didn't know you.
No,
I didn't mean I
good.
never met you. I didn't know you.
It's all good.
Foot in mouth. Open mouth, insert foot. But I look forward to like watching your video, and then I have Spotify, so I'm gonna check out your album.
Thanks.
And then maybe I'll give a review. But anyway, this has been the lovely and talented, the very competitive new mom, recently mom. How long you been married? Less than 2 years?
Yeah, we got married in October. It'll be in 2 years in October.
She goes quick. She'll have a whole football team by the time.
Yeah, I'm like, let's do this.
7 more.
Oh God, no.
And I know her name is spelled with an A, but it's Aisha.
There you go.
Alpha.
Thank you.
Aisha Alpha. And listen, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me on. This was great. It was nice to chat and get to know each other.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, like it's what I love about this platform is like, when would we ever decide to like sit down and just have an hour-long talk about all these different types of subjects and really be engaged like this? So it's amazing how this platform allows for even the people watching to be like, oh, I really like that, or to chime in, because they're going to chime in. Well, if you mixed colors wouldn't, whatever people are going to say, or just, I get some interesting debates in the chat, on the comments sometimes.
Yeah.
But
so it's good. That's what people need. Let's talk about all the things. Like, let's not pretend it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But anyways, once again, everybody say goodbye to the very lovely, and make sure you check out all of her stuff. It's on iTunes, Spotify, most audio platforms. What's the name of the album again?
All the Parts.
All the parts, and all the information is going to be down below. You can find her on the website and all that kind of stuff. I'll have all the information right there. But once again, give it up for the very talented Miss Aisha Alpha. And thank you very much for being on.
Thanks for having me on. It's really nice.